Welcome back to Fitting Mastery, this 3-part series where I am sharing with you all my expert tips, tricks, and tutorials to be able to create clothes that fit to perfection so you don't want to take them off. So far, we've talked about measuring, we've spoken about sizing, standard sizing, choosing the correct starting size for you. We've spoken about adjustments, and I've even shared with you the 3 most common fitting adjustments so you can start adjusting your sewing patterns and your blocks straight away to start translating into that perfect fit. Now, today we are going to be talking about testing the fit of your toiles because this is the most important step to actually master the perfect fit because we all stand and move differently. It doesn't matter if our measurements are the same as someone else's, we can stand in a very different way and we can move in a very different way. So the only way to really perfect the fit of our clothing is through testing, and that means toiles. A toile, if you're new to this word, is simply a prototype of your clothing. It's in a cheaper fabric, it doesn't have to be expensive or anything. It is there to help you check everything out before you go and use that expensive piece of fabric. You hack into it and you can never buy it again. So here are my top tips for making sure you're testing the fit of your toiles properly and you're getting the most out of those toiles because it takes time and effort, but they are so worth it when you test the fit and of course the design properly. So my first tip is to always use fabric that imitates the final garment. So for example, this dress here doesn't have the straps on because I just pinned on some tape when I was doing it, but this is a toile of this dress here. Now, it's fine to use this normal calico when I'm creating something like this because this is very similar to this fabric. But the thing I see happen again and again is people get carried away with always using calico or always using the same weight of calico. There are different weights of this fabric and you want to make sure the weight represents the end weight of the garment you're creating. So if you're creating a dress like this but it's in really soft floaty fabric, you want to make sure the toile fabric is similar to that. And if of course you're testing a stretch garment, you don't want to be using calico at all. You want to make sure you're using a stretch fabric which has the same stretch percentage as the final fabric you are going to be using. And I have a video on how to test the stretch percentage as well. So if that is something you're like, oh, I need that video, then you can check that out too. So my key thing is just think, is that going to imitate what I'm going to create in the end? If not, could I go and find something? Doesn't have to be the same, it can be a cheaper version, but it just needs to react in the same way. And when I mean react in the same way, I mean have a similar drape to it, a similar movement to it. And when it comes to stretch, like I said, it needs to have the same stretch percentage to it. Otherwise, this is really, really going to make a difference to the fit of your clothing. My second top tip is to perform normal activities in your toiles. I don't mean just put on your toile and then try it on and move around in the mirror because that's not how you normally move. Go and brush your teeth in it. Go and do the washing up. Go and walk up and down the stairs. Go and walk outside and come back in. Make sure you've moved around. You've sat down, you stood up, you've gone down some stairs. Like you've done those normal movements in it, not kind of artificially moved in it. So I will often just wear my toiles for a while, let's say an hour or so, to really test, like, does this work? Has my strap fallen off? Does this feel uncomfy? Could I sit down and it wasn't comfy to sit in and I was there like getting agitated with it? This is what we want to do. We want to make sure we're truly testing the fit of our clothing. So that means truly moving in a natural way in our toiles as well. Now, leading on for that tip, you might be like, but I need to pin up a side because I haven't put in a zip and all the pins might fly out if I move around too much. No, they won't. Not in my world. Go and grab yourself some safety pins. I know this one's extra big and I don't normally use this one, but you can see it on the screen. These are the ones I would normally use, smaller ones. But go and grab yourself some safety pins and you don't have that problem at all. And also when you come to take the toile off and you've made any adjustments, you've repinned where you need to bring something in or change something, then it's not going to ping off. You're still going to have that adjustment there. So it's going to be a lot quicker and a lot easier. Safety pins are your best friend when it comes to fitting adjustments. Now, my next tip when you are especially checking the fit of your blocks is to use 1.5 centimeter seam allowances. Now, normally what I would do is use 1 centimeter seam allowances. I know with a lot of sewing pattern companies, they use 1.5, but there's no need to. You can use 1 centimeter seam allowances. You're going to save on your fabric, save money, all the good things. In the fashion world, they will use 1 centimeter seam allowances because obviously they want to save money. So normally what I recommend for drafting your own patterns is a 1 centimeter seam allowance. But when you're doing fitting checks and adjustments, so creating your blocks, then use 1.5 centimeter seam allowances so you have that little bit of extra wiggle room in case you need to add extra fabric. It's a lot easier just to unpin something and already have it there than to add on another 0.5 centimeter of fabric. My next tip is to use your toiles like a sketchbook. So I find the most helpful thing a water erasable pen. Obviously you can use chalk, you can use pencil, you can use pen. But the reason why I use a water erasable pen is because if you change your mind, you can just erase it out and then you can start again. So I love to use this and then just mark on, you know, change this by this, change this by this. So then if something happens, you need to go and do something else, you don't have to remember things. I'm all about no memory tests, like you know. So I find using my toiles like a sketchbook, it makes you feel as well like you've got the most from them and you don't have to remember what happened 3 days ago when you were working on it and now you've come back to it, you don't have to rework it out. And my last and final tip is to use different colored threads. So say for example, you are changing the shaping of the hip or you're changing the shaping of the crotch. You may find that you end up sewing 3 different lines to check the fit. If you sew it in black, black, and black, who knows which one's which in the end. So start with pink, then go on to black, then go on to red. Make sure it's really easy for you to tell the difference between those 3 colors. So you know this one was first, not that one. This one was second, not that one. This one was third. This is the one I want to then copy over to my pattern and use as my perfect fitting sewing line. So we know how to test the fit with our toiles, but what are we looking for when we're testing that fit? How do we know something isn't right? And how do we know with those signs what we then need to go and do? So what I'm going to do now is share with you signs of an incorrect fit and then what that means. So you can then go and make those adjustments to translate that into the perfect fit. So the first sign of an incorrect fit is hemlines not in the correct position and where you want them to be. Now, one thing I want to say before we dive into all of this though is if this is a design feature, it is not an incorrect fit. You can use your discernment with this. You know if this is an incorrect fit or this is how it's meant to be. You know the right or wrong answer for this. So if it's a fit issue and you're finding that the hemlines aren't in the right place, what we want to do is adjust the length. And we want to think, whereabouts are we adjusting that length? So taking the knowledge we built up in part 1 and part 2, we are bringing awareness to where specifically we want to adjust the length. So say if you've got a dress and the bottom hemline is not sitting where you want it to, it's sitting too high up, you want it to be longer. We don't want to just add on the bottom and be like, oh, if I just add on the bottom, it's fine. We want to think, okay, I've got a cinched in waist bit here. This bit is too short, so I need to add in here, but actually this bit below that ends up being too long, so then I need to counteract that and take out a bit of that. So that is where measuring in sections really, really comes into play. We want to notice exactly where we want to take out or put in so that then all the proportions are going to suit the perfect fit to you. The next sign of an incorrect fit is seam lines at the wrong angle. So if I grab this toile here, I can help just explain this to you in a better way. So say for example, I'm wearing this bodice and this seam line here is going at a funny angle. And like I said, it's not a design feature, that is a fit issue. It's not meant to be like that, so it's a fit issue. So what I want to do then is undo the seam and change the adjustment, change the seam here so this seam is going to be at the right angle. That'll mean taking a bit from the back and giving a bit back from the front, or vice versa, depending on that angle of this. So we want to make sure our seam lines are going where they want to go, whether it's down the side of a pair of trousers, whether it's down the side of a bodice, whether it's a center front seam. We want to make sure they are going in the direction we want to go in. If not, we unpin them, we use our safety pins, we pin them back together so that they're in the right direction, and then we then copy that over to our pattern or our blocks. The next sign of an incorrect fit, I know you all know about, and that is drag lines. We hear it all the time, oh, there's drag lines here. But what does that really mean? So drag lines are created when there's a tension, when there's a tightness. So I can pull this and I can create drag lines. So you can see them here, created. That means that we want to add in extra fabric into that area of the pattern. It doesn't mean it's too short or too long, or it'll only be too short, it wouldn't be too long. It means that we want to add in a specific amount of fabric into that area. Our drag lines are showing us where. So when our drag lines are like this, it means there's not enough fabric in this area here. It doesn't mean we want to add in this way and open it up this way. It means we want to add in volume this way and open it up this way. So drag lines are a really quick and easy way to see that's not fitting. I need to add in a bit of extra volume into my pattern. And you're going to find there are length adjustments and there are volume adjustments. A volume adjustment means that you are only adding into a specific area. So a full bust adjustment would be a volume adjustment where you're adding in extra fabric here. If you are getting those drag lines here, you may be adding in extra fabric here. So you're going to open up the pattern in a little bit more of a funny way to add in extra fabric into that area where those drag lines are indicating. Now, another super common one we hear about all the time is gaping, and this can often happen around the neckline or the armhole. So what we want to do is grab our safety pins and pin out that extra amount of fabric. Normally we find it tapers back in. So what we want to do is either then make sure that amount of fabric is coming out of a new dart, or we want to pivot that into an existing dart and just take out a bit extra, or into a seam and maybe it's tapering out of one end of the seam but not another, so that we're preventing that gaping. So I touched on this a little bit in part 1 where I spoke about balance. And this is a common thing when it comes to trousers, because what can happen is we've made this beautiful pair of trousers, but then what we find is on us, this leg looks like it's like kicking out or kicking in. This is when the balance is off. And what we want to be doing is adjusting our pattern to either take out a bit or add in a bit so that we're adjusting the balance, and then the grain line is going up and down the body really nicely. This can also happen with sleeves, it can happen with other garments as well, but these are the most common times it can happen. So have a look, is that balance going a little bit funny and your trousers are kicking out or kicking in? If so, you want to be adjusting the balance of the bottom part of your sewn pattern or your blocks for that item of clothing. Now let's finish with a super obvious one, but with a nuance to it. And that is things falling off the body. Maybe the straps are falling off the body. Maybe the sleeves are falling off the body. Some part of the clothing is falling off the body, and that can indicate two things. Either it is a design issue and you don't have enough structure. So you'll often see these kind of garments where they've got these big poofy sleeves, but they're really like off the edge of the shoulder blades here, and they've got this really nice open neckline, they've got that open back. But here's the thing, either that garment is just like that for a photo shoot, or it has structure across here to hold it on the body, or it has structure under here to hold it on the body. So that is when it's a design issue, not a fit issue. A fit issue would be there's not enough fabric, or it's too loose, sorry, not enough fabric, it's too loose and it's falling off the body. So again, you can use your discernment with this. Is it that your garment needs a bit more structure to fit perfectly, or is it that it's actually a fit issue and you need to take a bit of volume out of the sleeves or out of wherever is falling off the body? So now you know what you're looking for in terms of those signs. Look at your toile. I find it really helpful to take videos when I'm wearing them as well, so I can see the back really well without twisting in a weird way that I wouldn't naturally do. And notice where those signs are, and then start to go about maybe undoing that seam line or pinning out that extra bit of fabric or adjusting those little things that are going to perfect the fit. Using those tips and using those signs, combine them all together and using all the adjustment techniques, you are going to be able to start really nailing the fit of your clothing. But if you're like, Sarah, tell me one more, I want to master the fit once and for all, then I would 100% recommend checking out my in-depth fitting program called Fitting Confidence. Inside there, I go through all the adjustment techniques you need to know to create perfectly fitting clothes, whether that's trousers, jumpsuits, dresses, all the things. I show you that domino order so you really understand this is going to affect this and this is going to affect this. So I need to make sure I do it in this order. And you come away with blocks that fit you perfectly, because we go through all those adjustment processes whilst we are creating blocks to fit your size and shape. So if that sounds like it's up your street, have a little look in the links below. I'll put the link below there so you can find out more information. But if you have any questions at all about this series, you have any thoughts, any big takeaways, any questions about fitting confidence, feel free to drop into my DMs at The Sewing Retreat on Instagram, or you can drop into my emails hello@thesewingretreat.co.uk, and I am always more than happy to catch up with you. I love connecting with you guys, hearing what you need to know, hearing what questions you have, hearing what's been those light bulb moments, because it really helps me share more of this incredible knowledge to help you create clothes that fit like a dream, that you don't want to take them off, and also are your dream designs. Thank you so much for joining me during this 3-part series. It's been so incredible to have you here. Have a beautiful day wherever you are in the world.